Hey guys, welcome to the second ever interview that I've done for this YouTube channel. Today, I was lucky enough to have Ajax. Ajax, if you don't know, is the main support for the Atlanta Academy team that just came as a runner-up in the most recent season of Contenders North America. In this interview, we talk about his life leading up to this season, how he feels the season went, and we also talk a little bit about his predictions for Overwatch League Season 2. Without any further delay, let's get right into it. Hello everyone, and welcome to the second ever interview on this channel. Today, I have Ajax here with me. Ajax, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, it's been a rough day or two since grand finals, but holding up, just preparing for next season.
Absolutely. For the people out there who don't know you, or obviously you said grand finals, but could you explain your involvement with the competitive Overwatch community and the teams you've been a part of?
Sure. So I've been in Overwatch since almost the very beginning. I'm not necessarily one of like the OG old guards, like people like Tavik that have literally been on like the first ever signed teams in Overwatch. I got in a little bit after that. But I did start playing in beta. My first signed team was actually a small Twitter org called Kingdom. I got bought out by Renegades. Then I went to a team called Kingarna. I've been on so many teams. Kingarna. This has been so long. I played for Kingarna. We made a run as the only unsigned team in this tournament called NGE. We ended up getting second to Immortals at the time. This was a LAN. Played at PAX South, and then after that, I eventually signed to TSM. Then I eventually signed to NRG. I've been on definitely too many teams.
You've been on. There is. I mean, you look at your Wikipedia page. There is quite the list. But I think it's really. Cool how you've been in the community since the beginning, and you've been a part of so many teams because you have a wide range of experiences. But first of all, right. I want to go back to kind of the beginning and ask why you decided on the name Ajax.
Sure. I don't know if I've talked too much about this to the Overwatch community, but before I started heavily gaming, I was very much into sports. I've been playing soccer since I was 3 or 4 years old. There's videos of me kicking a ball around in my parents' apartment when I was legitimately 2 years old. I could barely walk, and my dad had me kicking a soccer ball. And eventually that transferred over to playing football as well, and I became a kicker for my high school team. But the first day of high school tryouts for soccer, I walked up, and I was the second Alex that showed up for tryouts. And all the seniors were like, well, this isn't going to work. So they just combined my first name, Alex, and Jackson, and they made Ajax. And all the soccer kids called me it, and then eventually just everybody started calling me it, even so my teachers. My parents even sometimes would call me Ajax. It just kind of depends on the day.
It's actually really cool. Interesting. Anyways, so far in Contenders, you have been, you were last night's leftover since Contenders 2018 Season 1. You were in Trials Season 1, and then you got to Contenders. You ended up going back to Trials, and then you finally, in Contenders 2018 Season 2, you had your playoff run. It was the first time an independent team had ever gotten to the playoffs in North America in 2018. So you're going into the off season. You're the best independent team in North America, and there are 4 new North American Overwatch League teams that have been created, as well as Houston Outlaws, who just got relegated, and the LA Valiant, who have never had a Contenders team. So, what was that off season like to be a free agent in that way?
So it was actually, if anything, it was a little depressing because we had just done really well. We knew that some of our players were going to get picked up for Owl. The only person that ended up getting picked up for Owl was Blair, but we thought actually a lot more. And because all these Owl teams were doing all these pickups, no team was really interested in signing us as a Contenders team. So it was really hard because there was a lot of ups and downs. There was maybes, no's, even more maybes, and then it was very much a roller coaster. Everything that ended up happening was very last minute.
Wow, interesting.
So yeah, our team was very, very last minute.
So I was gonna ask, how did you end up getting in contact with Atlanta then?
Right. So we talked to actually a lot of orgs, and there was one that we were almost going to agree with, and then all of a sudden Sefi, who is our coach on LNL, who's now head coaching Atlanta, came to us and said, hey, we can do this. And I was ecstatic because I was like, oh wow, this is an academy team. It's actually gonna happen. because the people that were actually interested in us were not academy teams. So to have an academy team say, hey, we can sign you, we can do this, it was pretty surreal, because it felt like we were going to go into season 3 either with a very interesting team or with no sponsor, and we would have just stayed L&L.
Yeah, well, it's awesome that you eventually do end up with the Atlanta Reign in the end. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's your first experience being affiliated with an Overwatch League team. So
correct.
The assumption around the community is that academy teams have an incredible advantage over independent teams because of the money and the resources that they have. So as someone who has now experienced both, did being with Atlanta give you and your team resources that made it easier for you to succeed compared to the past?
Yes, 100%. People often say like you can get paid or you get money, and it's like that doesn't make you a better Overwatch player, which is true, but there are a lot of things that support comes with that they like ease your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had the pressure on me that if I wasn't going to get signed soon, like I was going to go back to college. And I know there were other players that really needed to start making money too. Like I think Dogman was in a very similar situation to me. And having support of a team that can now give you a salary where you have a guaranteed income it eases your mind a lot. Like there's a lot of pressure on your mind when you're playing because you have the stress of the game, improvements, the community, and then to add to that, you have the pressure of, am I going to be making money? Do I have a job? All these things, right? And that alone is something that's very amazing. And not even to mention the fact that when you're on academy team, you get a support staff. Like L&L was blessed with Sephi, Silence, all these people that are now Owl staff, right?
Right.
And to get signed, but we get to keep those Overwatch League level coaches at the same time in a way. Like obviously they cannot put a ton of resources into us because they have to worry about the Overwatch League team too. But for a while before Overwatch League was even going, like we had a lot of the coaches like helping us all the time, like doing everything they possibly could to help us succeed for our first season as Atlanta Academy and Contenders. And that was just amazing. Like there's no unsigned team that's gonna be able to put forward 5 Overwatch League level coaches and help you improve for like 2.5 months,
Oh yeah, for sure. So first of all, I do have to say congrats on making it to the finals this season and giving us what was probably the most competitive NA Contenders finals match all year. So how does it feel to, I mean, I know you said earlier that you're bummed you didn't win, but how does it feel to have been able to reach that point in just your first season as Atlanta Academy?
It was pretty amazing. I'm bummed we didn't win, but when I take a step back and I look at it, it's like it's like stepping stones, right?
Yeah.
It went from one to the next, and now we're in Contenders finals, and it's like that's amazing. It just keeps improving, and next season I want to win it, and then not just next season, the season after that I want to eventually get into Overwatch League. Like I have this very I don't settle for less. Like I don't want to just like get into Overwatch League. Like I want to win Overwatch League. Like I want to hold the trophy in my hand. Like I'm the kind of person that doesn't like I hate losing. I actually I hate losing so much. Like I don't even really care necessarily too much about the money. I just want to like play the game and win. It's kind of like this like overly competitive mentality I've had since a kid because I've always been playing sports. So like I cannot settle for less. I just got to keep improving, keep going forward, and keep winning more things.
For sure. Okay, so you bring up how much you hate losing, and so I feel like I have to bring up how you did end up losing in the end, and due to the reaction to the finals, I feel like I do have to bring up Busan. The team had a kind of a rough time in Busan. The meme is that you died a couple of times while you were in the middle of casting Sound Barrier, and the memes that have been made have been mostly at your expense. And then after that map, the team ended up losing the last 2 maps by a pretty wide margin. I know you've talked about it some on Twitter, but I wanted to give you the chance to respond to those people making memes about you, and then just also comment on how the finals went as in general.
So at the end of the day, I mean, I've been in the Overwatch scene for a while, and at the end of the day, people are gonna make memes no matter what. I mean, I love making memes. Everybody likes like funny jokes. Like it's gonna happen, right? Yeah. And it was very unfortunate, and I understand that it's funny. And looking back on it, like I'm not naive enough to like say it's not funny, because if I was not in the finals and it was like, let's say Jur on XL2, and that happened to him, I'd probably be laughing because like it's funny, right? It's funny to put crabs around it, joke around. So like I get it, and it's also really easy to pick on me too, because I know in the past I've always been kind of a punching bag. It's even the role I've taken on a lot of my teams. Like people like to make jokes, and it's like every team has a punching bag.
Yeah.
If it helps you like continue in scrims to like pick on me just a little bit, go for it, because at the end of the day, like all I care is like the end result. And people can like make a lot of noise and they can say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's in my head, I know it's a team game. I know where I messed up, I know where my teammates messed up, and I know what we need to do to improve going into the next season of Contenders.
Absolutely. That's a really good way to look at it. To finish off the Contenders section of this interview on a high note, I wanted to ask, what has been like the best moment of your Contenders career so far?
So that's actually a tough one.
You can give me multiple moments if it's easier.
Yeah, that's very tough, because there have been a lot of great moments this season, but I don't know if they top what beating Mayhem last season, securing our ticket to playoffs. I don't know if that's a really tough, because they're both so good. Like when we qualified for playoffs, like it was a really big moment for everyone in LNL.
Oh,
like
I bet.
It was like, it was redemption for me, it was redemption for my teammates, it was redemption for my coaches, because there were so many people that called like the LNL coaches, like when they first joined us, like garbage, or they got cut from OWL, they must be trash. And it's just like, that is so naive. So I was just so glad that we as a team could like show that we weren't washed up or we weren't garbage. Like we can do all these things. And then this season it was really great too, because you know, I had a lot of people say, you know, okay, cool, he signed, he's just gonna be in Contenders he might even be in Contenders forever. Like this player is just, he's good, but he's not good enough. And to get a minimum to get second, it's just like, no, I'm not just good enough, I'm going to get into OWL. Like I want to prove all these people wrong. Like that's the goal. So it was getting second to like getting to the grand finals was like a huge moment for my team and myself. Awesome.
So now we're going to make just a little bit of a shift. We're going to stop talking about Contenders and start talking about some stuff for Overwatch League Season 2.
Okay.
Alright, so first of all, one of the biggest things that people have been talking about as of recent has been the current changes on the PTR with the armor nerfs and the rally nerfs and the Reaper buffs. So, assuming the changes in the PTR hit the live servers as is, and this is the patch that Overwatch League ends up starting on, how do you think this balance patch will affect the meta, if at all? I know it's hard to tell before Overwatch League starts and we see what people run, but, like, you know, just some theory crafting.
So, I am very interested to see a lot of comps, because I think the D.Va changes and the armor nerfs open the floodgates almost to a lot of creativity, and I don't think that there's been enough creativity right now, at least in the PTR scrims from teams. I think that Goats probably still is good in a way, but I think that there's a lot of room for other comps on Mass to be good. I think that the armor nerf hurts D.Va a lot against characters like Tracer and Sombra. I don't think Reaper is going to be relevant, just because no matter how much healing he gets, he can still get a one-shot. He can still get CC'd in his ultimate. Like the problems with Reaper aren't being addressed by just giving him lifesteal. It's just like, it's like Band-Aid fixing for low tiers,
right?
Like lower like tiers of SR. To like just make the character more annoying when it's just like, it's not the proper way to balance the character. I think that maybe quad DPS could be okay. There's a whole lot of things in my mind that just are like bouncing back and forth about things that could be good.
The way I like to think about Reaper, it's like, if you know, a fly is annoying, but you can kill it easily. A slightly bigger fly, still annoying, you can kill, but you can still kill it easily, pretty much.
Right. With a coordinated team, like at the end of the day, it's a 250 HP target that has to get in really close, and he can just get flashbang, break stun, like so many things.
Absolutely. So the Overwatch League has also made several changes to its structure this offseason, like changing the schedule so the teams have fewer games and more breaks and longer breaks, changing its playoff structures with the larger brackets and the play-in tournaments, as well as the couple of home games that are going to be going on over some weekends. So do you think, what are your opinions on these changes? Do you think they were good for the league overall?
I think it's good. The lower amount of matches is definitely good for players with like burnout situations, and definitely for overall improvement. If you just look at like Contenders, for example, there's been a lot of talk actually recently about Contenders about how the short seasons and having matches week to week that matter so much, how that's like not helping like player development. That's, if anything, stunting it, right?
Right.
And I think Owl, in a way, was almost having the same problem where you have these stages on certain patches that will not change till the next stage. They have to play this meta. They have like 1 week. They have every match, right? And it's just like, for the overall improvement of the team, it's just not going to be there. So having more breaks where you're not only working on the patch, but the fundamentals and your teamwork, because you have a little bit of breathing room, I think will help not only like the players with like things like burnout and things like that, but just overall team growth. So at the end of the season, because at the end of the day, at the end of the season, you want all the teams to be as good as possible. That way it's like as competitive and exciting to watch. So overall, I think it'll be good throughout like the health of the season.
Awesome. So, other than the Reign, of course, which team or teams are you the most excited to watch in Season 2?
So, this is going to be a weird one, but I'm actually really excited to see Washington, D.C. I'm not the biggest fan, I'll be honest, but I do have a couple friends, coaching in the GM positions on the team, and I hope they succeed. Yeah. And a lot of people, I actually said this on Twitter, like I think it was like a week ago. A lot of people have been putting Washington D.C. at 20th.
I think I've done that.
Yeah, I think you have too. But don't worry, almost everyone I've seen has put them at 20th. I'm not even kidding. I don't think I've seen a list where they're not 20th. And I think DC is not some powerhouse team, but I do think that they will be competitors. Like I think they can get, okay, let me rephrase. Not necessarily competitors, but they're not going to be 20th. I'd say they're probably 14th.
Okay.
But I want to see them win and prove people wrong in that sense, because I know that team has potential to be a lot better than some of the other overhyped teams in the league.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get to that later. But again, other than the Reign, which expansion team do you think will perform the best in Season 2?
I think the team that will have the best immediate success is gonna have to be the Titans, and that's simply just because they had a complete roster. Like they have the synergy; it's already all there, right? They just have to make sure they can play in the meta. I don't think that's healthy long term, because Overwatch League is about building the best team for the future. It's not necessarily in the short term, because in the short term it doesn't matter. Like if you win stage 1, but you do not win like league playoffs, like no one is going to care, right? Like the goal is not winning the stage, it's winning the playoffs. So I think a team like Titans, although they'll have early success, I think they're going to fall off, and some other teams have the opportunity to rise up. So I think maybe the Charge have a chance to like be a good expansion team.
I've been seeing the Charge as a sleeper pick by a lot of people for sure.
They definitely have potential out of all the other 100%. Expansions. Because I'm not super impressed with a lot of expansions. I'm not saying they're not good, but I'm just saying that I'm not super impressed with what they built. I think there's like a couple missing pieces on a lot of these teams, but I think the Charge did a relatively good job making sure that it's very even across the board in all their roles. I think they have a lot of potential. They just need to like tap into it.
For sure. So we're looking at all of the preseason analysis and power rankings and stuff like that. Like you seem to have been paying at least some attention to all those. So let's talk a little bit about a team or a couple of teams that you think has been overrated in the preseason analysis, and then teams that were underrated.
So for underrated, I kind of already gave it away. I think
DC is probably the most underrated. Right?
Yeah, I think DC is probably the most underrated team going into the league. Who else would I think? I think Dallas Fuel, actually. A lot of people are saying they're going to get 13th. I think with maybe one more addition, they could be a contender for like 9th or 8th or something around there. Because right now I don't see them as super high up, but I think they have potential to grow throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure.
For the overrated teams, it has to be Mayhem and Eternal. I think Eternal is.
You think Mayhem is overrated?
Yeah,
most people have them in the bottom quarter.
Oh yeah, but people don't have them low enough.
Okay.
I've always been a very pessimistic person, and I don't think that team's gonna do very well. And I see them at like 16th, and I see like people like DC or who else would I see below them? I even Chengdu, and I'm just like, I really think this team is 20th, like without a doubt. But
wow.
I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong before.
For sure. And then you said the Eternal, right?
Yeah, I think so although the Eternal has a couple good players, like obviously Shadowburn was a very good projectile DPS. They have good tank players. I think Ben Best is pretty good. Overall the roster is okay, but I don't think that they're going to see the success that people are putting on them. People are putting them some in top 10. Some I've seen people put them at like 12, 11, 13, and I think this team needs to see significant improvement if they're going to make it there. I'm very, very pessimistic about their season as of right now.
Fair enough. And going off of that same idea, you see people talking about the teams and players going into Season 1. Is there any like assumptions that have been made by the community that you look at as a player and you're like, well, they're just plain wrong about that?
I think there's this idea that if you're picking up like a quote hidden gem, or you're picking up somebody from, maybe not not one of the main regions.
Yeah.
I think people will see that as like a very, very good thing. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great to see representation from the smaller regions. But people just say, "Oh, how amazing it is," and to me, it's just, if they're good enough, they're good enough. Like, I'd love to see, I love seeing good players in other regions, but I don't think picking them up is always the best thing, especially when I don't think they're the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to word this very carefully, because I don't want it to seem like I don't think other regions have like capabilities, because there's a lot of good players in those regions.
Right.
But
of course,
I think picking up players solely off of the fact that they're from another region is not the greatest.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, I feel like I have to ask you this. Who do you have winning Overwatch League Season 2 and why?
So, this is a really tough question, because I think overall NYXL is the most consistent, like, just best Overwatch League team. From all the experience I've had scrimming OWL teams, they're just always the most consistent, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have teams like Spitfire, who obviously won last season,
right,
who are just, they're inconsistent, but when they're like popping off, like they are really popping off. But
yeah.
So, and there's a lot of teams that are like right behind them, so there's potential for other teams to win. But in my head, like, I have to pick NYXL to win next season, just because I know in my head they're the most consistent right now. But that could change. Just from my perspective, that's how I see it.
And that is going to do it for the interview. Ajax, thank you so much for agreeing to come and do this with me.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks so much to Ajax for agreeing to come out and do an interview with me today. I had a lot of fun talking to him. He's a really chill, but also really driven guy, and I wish him the best of luck in wherever his career takes him next.
Thanks, Zero, for having me on for this interview. It was a lot of fun. If you want to follow me, I am on Twitter at Ajax10W and Twitch at Ajax1TV.
And the links to those will be in the description. Remember, if you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I try and make competitive Overwatch content at least once a week for you guys. Until next time, though, that's all for me. Don't get tilted.